Hello there, it's Scott Tickers on the How to Write Funny YouTube channel coming at you live. Welcome to all of you who are watching the replay. I've gathered a few people from the How to Write Funny community, some comedy writers, comedians, to talk about what happened at the Academy Awards. Us comedy writers, we have a lot of thoughts about it, and I'm going to talk about it a lot on my podcast this week. The Scott Tickers shows up. But I wanted to talk about it here more sort of shop talk, in the weeds talk about what it means for comedy writers and comedians. My first thought watching it was I felt so bad for Chris Rock. He was put in a terrible position and he performed incredibly perfectly, just beautifully. So I felt sad and horrible for him, but I was so proud of him at the same time. And it was really fun to see what other comedians started saying about it. Like, oh my God, does this mean we have to protect ourselves now when people come to our shows? We have to learn jujitsu just to be able to stand up there and tell jokes. But I don't want to talk all by myself. I'm going to bring on some people. I've got who is this that we're talking to here? It says Lowell.
DJ Lowell. This is Ryan. Can you hear me?
You're Ryan. I can hear you.
Yeah, it's Ryan Kilpatrick.
DJ Lowell.
DJ Lowell. That's my stage name.
Got it.
But
thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. So,
Sure.
do I get to say a couple words?
Yeah, let's have you chime in. Sure.
Well, so first and foremost, I live in South Philadelphia. How to Write Funny, Scott Diggers comedy business. I recommend it to everybody.
Hey, thanks, man.
And the first comic I ever seen live was Chris Rock. And if you guys can't see me, don't adjust your screen. I'm black. So there's a lot to unpack here. Number one, it was interesting. On Friday and Saturday night, you would be happy to know that I finished writing my comedy album or performing my comedy album recording live.
Yeah.
One thing I had that I've always had is I had security. Having said all that, if you know the history of 2016, and I'll try to keep this short. In 2016, Chris Rock hosted the Oscars. He made a comment about Jada Pinkett Smith. She made a comment about him. There's a history. Chris Rock came out with a movie called Bad Hair.
Yeah,
a movie
about
documentary. About black women's hair. A lot of black women think that he exposes secrets and he's kind of a hater. That's what some black people say.
Right.
My mother might have said that. I don't know. Then you got Will Smith, that his whole life is being just put out there in regard to the entanglements, all these things. And I feel he got to a point where he just snapped. And I'll come full circle because there's still the idea that maybe this was staged because Chris Rock is performing tomorrow in Boston. His tickets went from $70 to $400 overnight. So I'm just saying, you got to factor
that. That would be pretty crass if somebody staged this just to raise their ticket prices. I don't think he would do that. Maybe, I don't know.
I'm just asking questions. I'm just asking questions, and you have.
Yeah, you can pose the question. And I was alive when Jerry Lawler hit Andy Kaufman on the David Letterman show, and that was a big situation, just like this. And I was a kid. I was like 17 or 18, and I remember thinking it was totally real, and to find out later it was completely staged did surprise me quite a bit.
Okay, so I wasn't familiar with that, so I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
So we as comics, I think everyone says Chris Rock acted professionally, and I don't know what else you could have did. I wish you would have said something like, "Hey, I just took that slap. Can I get nominated for an Oscar for that performance?"
He could have come up with a lot of better jokes, but the thing is, he just got smacked in front of a billion people.
This is
like
true.
The fact that he was able to keep his cool and even try any kind of joke was really impressive, especially knowing that he was bullied as a kid. Okay. Bigger kids, just like Will Smith, beat him up. And, I'm sure he's traumatized by that, but he also, credits his comedy skill to that period of his life. So he's got a lot of emotion going on there on stage. And the fact that he kept his cool and kept the show going, like that was really impressive.
I think he got more progressively. It went like, as he kept going, he kept realizing what the heck just happened.
Because it was like he was in shock, I think.
Yeah. I want to say this of all the comics that I know, most of them are saying, now I'm all concerned about other comics getting smacked all across the country.
Yeah.
You have to know when you go in there, you're going into the devil's den. I've seen other comics get assaulted before too, and you have to know if you're going to push the envelope. There's going to be some pushback sometimes. Everyone's not going to love
Of course.
what you did. And now I ask the question. I ask the question to you: was the joke that funny? Because okay, and if you don't know she's got alopecia, that's what I'm hearing is that he didn't know that. Then you
Oh,
think about
I think he knew. I mean, she did a
okay,
live Instagram. It's
I
like
said the same thing. I said the
getting
same thing.
her head shaved. She made it very public.
I
Let's bring Bree on.
Mm.
Bree, you can
got my
speak to this because I feel like there's a huge missing piece to this whole situation that white people don't understand. I feel, no, seriously, I feel like there's a black woman piece to this that we don't understand because of the long history that black women have had where they're sensitive about people saying they don't like their hair. And
in interest of full disclosure, this is my sister, but go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Hi. And so many of the black women reactions that I've seen to this event were, it's nice to see a man standing up for his wife, you know? And so there just historically, there are so many issues that black women face. You know, they're the most persecuted minority in this country, with the possible exception of, you know, Native Americans. And I think there is something where they like to see a man, a black man, sticking up for them, especially against another black man who seems to be dissing them. Tell me if I am onto something here, because like white people, we're looking at this and we're seeing like the joke seemed like a compliment. It was like she's saying she's hot, like Demi Moore. And I like a woman with a shaved. I think she looks great. He didn't mention the alopecia. I'm talking too much. How do you respond
I
to that?
mean, I don't speak for all black women,
Of
first of
course you
all.
don't.
Let me say that first.
I do boldly speak for all white people, though.
I'm not sure that I would say that we're sensitive, right? Like there's a level of respect. You don't go up to white women touching their hair. You don't go up to white men touching their hair. So it's not a sensitivity thing, because if I went up to a white woman and touched her hair, I'm sure she would have some feelings about that. Furthermore, um, I don't, I mean, I guess Will Smith did what he felt he needed to do in that moment. I don't know. I hear what you're saying about how women are saying he stood up for his woman against this person who was publicly humiliating her. Um, I don't know. And then I guess there was history there as well. So I'm not even sure that what Will Smith did was in 100% um in regard for Jada, because I mean, I've seen videos where he was laughing at the joke until he saw
That's what he
Jada's
did. He
face.
laughed at it when he
So
first told it.
This is so interesting. She had so much to say in the thread between her and my mom, back and forth. Me and my mom kind of leaned towards Will,
oh,
and she leaned towards Chris.
I
And now you got
definitely
nothing. Now
listen.
you got
I
nothing
will
to say.
give Chris his props, and I leaned towards Chris before I knew all of the information. I'll admit that. But Chris handled it like a man. He took that slap, took about 3 seconds to compose himself, and just kept rolling with the show. So I mean,
You know, it's interesting. A lot of people said he's not actually from Bed-Stuy, or he's not actually from Brooklyn. He's from like South Carolina, North Carolina. Because when he said he handled like a man, a lot of black guys will say, "No, I would have punched back." But what people don't realize is Chris is a professional, and
Right.
you have to you. I mean, there's a way to handle hecklers, and there's a way to handle. And I've always been under the school like the show must go on. So if something's happening, if Beyonce falls, you just get back up and you just keep going. And he did that. Um, and it was funny if everything is true, and he said, "Oh wow, Will Smith just smacked the crap out of me." I mean, I thought that was kind of witty and kind of funny. Like, and I think it's more showing yourself of a man is like in the civil rights movement. You had to have the ability not to fight back, and a lot of people think that it's cowardly of
Absolutely.
us when we don't fight back. But I think it takes more not to fight back because there's
Absolutely. The
certain.
cowardly thing is to march on stage and punch somebody in the face.
right.
The
I
brave
agree.
thing, the brave thing is to be the better man and be cool in the face of that and try to cool it down. Like it was a GI Jane joke. Relax.
So what I meant was he took it like a man.
You
Yeah.
mean the punch, the smack?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was DJing one night because I'm DJ Lowell, and I got into a conversation, and the guy comes up to me, and we exchanged some words, and there was a misunderstanding about me going to the bathroom and trying to get in there. And there was one bathroom in the bar, and his girlfriend was in there, and immediately he just hit me. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Hit me again. Hey, what's going on here? Hit me again. And I'm sitting there making a decision as I'm DJing, all my equipment is here, and I don't know this person. I'm here by myself. This is not a good situation. So I had to just stand down, and everyone, a lot of people in South Philly, hey, the DJ got beat up. Okay, but listen, I was able to live for another day because a lot of things happen in South Philly, and obviously
Yeah.
I don't go to gigs without security anymore.
It's good you had security when you recorded your
Yeah,
special.
we had a little incident, very very small, but
Yeah.
the security guard came up, and the special was already done. It was already shot, but then back there, and you get some people that, I don't want to get off track here, but a lot of people say you're not ready for a comedy album. You've been doing comedy for 4 years. Some people will be 10 years before they do it, and a lot of people were like my sister just came out with a book, and we realized that people who aren't where you are sometimes want to hate. And it was one of those people
Sure.
that's a comic, and it was just you want to sit there in the front row and critique me and snap and tell me to get to the next joke and all these other things. And I'm like, who are you? And so we had some exchange of words, and it just got weird, and it was cool. I didn't have to say anything. My security came right over there and escorted him out.
That's great. Pierce, I would love to invite you onto the stream, but it says you have to connect your devices before we can bring you on. So what I keep thinking about is Will Smith sitting in that chair, laughing at that joke. And then the thought process where he stands up, he walks 20 feet or whatever that is to Chris, thinking, I'm going to make an absolute fool of myself by punching a comedian on live television in front of a billion people. I'm going to destroy my good guy image. I'm going to destroy my family image, my G-rated image by swearing on live TV. How, so I'm beginning to believe some of these people who, like Howard Stern, who are saying, look, there's some mental health issues here. And I don't judge. We all have mental health issues.
I was going to say the same thing.
Will Smith probably has some, like we all do. And the fact that he couldn't stop at any point during that journey and say, no, this is a terrible idea. What am I doing? Is really troubling. Like that, you just don't do that. Like it's just monumentally wrong. It's just such a monumentally wrong thing to do.
And when he walked off the stage, he had to kind of look like, yeah, man, I'm cool.
I did. I was cool. I did the cool thing. No, you did not.
The meltdown was when he started screaming at him and like, what are we doing here?
That was disturbing. That I felt like I was in a domestic violence situation. I was in some home where there's domestic violence, and it was just really uncomfortable.
I want to say one thing. A lot of people are talking about, should he be stripped of his Oscars? And I'll say two things. The performance was already done. I watched King Richard. It was brilliant. I cried. I loved it. It was a great, and it was Will's time. So take away the Oscar like you take away the Heisman. The performance is already there. They all say he needs to be held accountable. He assaulted a man on stage. He broke a law. He could have went to jail. Chris decided not to press charges. So what are we talking about here? The penalty could have been there because they're saying, well, we can't have this. There is a way to, if you've got a bunch of kids watching, look up to Will Smith saying this okay. It's not okay. He could have went to jail just for that. So that's my thoughts on whether or not he should be stripped of an Oscar.
Yeah, he who casts the first stone, right? Like what other Best Actor award winner has done questionable things? Probably all of them.
Harvey Weinstein keeps all of his Oscars, doesn't he?
Who does?
Harvey Weinstein gets to keep.
Yeah, somebody made that comment on Twitter. Yeah. Nobody ever talked about taking away Harvey Weinstein's Oscars, So yeah, I don't feel like that's necessarily a legitimate conversation. The conversation should be like, is violence an appropriate response to humor? And in my opinion, it is not. I don't think under any circumstances you punch a comedian for telling a joke.
Well, let me ask you this. That's perfect. You said that. Mike Richards, that's Kramer, right?
Oh, when he did
he had a meltdown.
routine.
He had a meltdown.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're a bunch of black people and you're sitting there saying these things. Is that
Yeah. So
go
what
for
you
it?
just said, what you just said about the civil rights movement,
Sure. I got you.
where
There you go, Scott. I got you. I got
the
you. I got you.
stronger person is going to be nonviolent.
Sure.
So does that mean that a racist routine is acceptable? Absolutely not. And you shouldn't book Michael Richards again, and you shouldn't go see him again. But you shouldn't smack him in the face for doing the routine. I don't think you should. I just don't think there's ever a reason to resort to violence.
I think there are a couple. There's a couple reasons, and again, the only fight you want to win is in court. So I don't resort to violence, and I think there's never a place for that. Um, I just think that but that's how normal people think. If you go into certain places, people are about that life and they think differently. So if you go
Yeah,
out there and you say things and you do things, you should know there's gigs that I won't take because it's like I don't feel safe there. So some people don't care for my comedy, whatever. I don't want to put myself in that situation.
I think
Um,
being afraid of getting punched or getting assaulted on stage is totally different from um, making a stance on whether violence is acceptable.
sure.
So, like, I had a stalker once, and he threatened to kill me, and I was afraid that he would show up when I would do a book signing, like at a local bookstore.
Really?
And so I had to get a restraining order against him. So, I mean, I knew it was a reality that this guy was out there and maybe he could find out where I lived. Who knows what could happen? But that doesn't mean that I support violence against anyone. Like, I want him to obey the law. I want him to not hit me. I want him to not to kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah, does that mean that crazy people who might want to hit you don't exist? Of course not. It boggles my mind. And that's why I asked the question about, like, the issues with, there was something much deeper going on in Will Smith besides, that wasn't a great joke, or my wife might have been offended by that joke. It just seemed like a much
I just think
deeper
that
anger.
I think that he's just people make fun of him all the time in Hollywood. Him and his wife, and then his wife cheats on him, and it's public, and it's just
Well, they have an
everyone's
open marriage. It's not cheating, right?
well, so that everyone is. I've assumed they were in open marriage for 20 years, but they've never actually said that out publicly until
I've heard him say it
yeah.
recently, anyway.
Well, after the entanglements, they came and said we have an open marriage, and because so people make fun of him, and he's been a punching bag, literally or physically, literally for a while. And I think he just
It's
lost it.
tough being the nice guy. I bet it's tough being Mr. G-rated, sweet, nice guy all the time.
But here's one other thing that I want to say that I had a conversation with a client today. And he said, "Can we ever? What's the next thing? How you're going to fix it?" And I said, "Think about Tyson and Holyfield. The guy bit his ear off, and now they do commercials, and then they fight together, and they've been able to get past it. I think we're in a place where they're friends. They'll get past this. They'll do something. They'll raise money. I think they're both under the mindset that we're strong black men. We have a platform. We have a responsibility. They'll get through this for sure. And I still can't rule out the fact that whether or not it was staged because I don't know. I got to keep that. I have to keep that in my back pocket.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that's true. Um, and we'll see, we'll see what happens. Bree, did you have any more thoughts on this?
Yeah, I guess so. I just want to, I think what we haven't talked about, or maybe I missed it in the beginning, is the possibility that Will, right in that moment, he was laughing and then he looked over at Jada and saw her reaction and reacted to her reaction. And so he might have in that moment also just remembered all of the tears that she cried and how emotional it was when she found out she had alopecia and how she had to deal with that. And, there's a lot that happens behind the scenes, even in private lives. I can't imagine having a very public relationship. And I don't know. I'm not saying it's right. It definitely, I don't condone violence at all. And for me, Will Smith looked stupid. Like, you walked up here slow as ever, slapped this man, and then walked off like you were the coolest dude in the room.
It was embarrassing. It was
I know.
embarrassing.
It was.
Alopecia. So, making fun of somebody's autoimmune disorder is not funny. And I don't know why people keep saying that's what this was. He literally said, G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. That
Right.
is a compliment. That is saying
to
you
her
look
bald
hot
head.
bald. And she made a choice to shave her head. Now, if she had alopecia and she didn't want anybody to know, she could have worn a wig. She could have not shaved her head live on Instagram. She could have not told the world she had alopecia. So it's out there. People know. And if you choose to shave your head and you're like a rich multi-million-dollar super movie star, somebody might mention that you have a bald head, and they might mention it in a positive comment. They might mention it in a playful comment. Doesn't mean they're making fun of your alopecia. That's like way too sensitive. Look at me. Like, I have alopecia. 80% of Americans have alopecia at some point in their life. It's not like you're a persecuted minority if you have alopecia. It's very common, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt you. It just means you don't have hair. And she looks great bald. She looks amazing. It was a good fashion choice for her to shave her head.
She can put a sack of potato on her head and she would look great. So I'm just
Yeah.
throwing it out. I'm just throwing it out.
No, it's silly that people are being so sensitive on her behalf when she's been so open about this, and she boldly shaves her head and shows up in a beautiful gown and says, "Here I am." Like, what's wrong with that? Like, she doesn't need protection from men or from anybody else trying to stand up for her.
She definitely doesn't need protection. I mean, I think that's part of the argument of why Will.
Scott, did you read? I'm sorry. Did you read Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's post on this? I think
No, what did
everyone.
you say?
I read it.
It's a lot. It's a lot, and it changes my perspective a little bit. And you're changing my perspective too. I mean, I was on Team Will. I'll be honest with you. And now I'm kind of like, it's no teams. I love them both equally, but I'm just starting to see. Brian, I don't know why you're smiling, because you were on Team Chris Rock from the beginning.
I'm still on Team Chris.
Okay, all right. So
on Team Will.
I mean, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, very, very long rant, and then he was very, very, outspoken in the civil rights movement and everything. And he's a very, very someone that I admire.
Yeah, me too. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I posted it on Facebook, and some people are like, man, I'm not reading all that. This guy sat down, thought about this.
Somebody doesn't care enough to read that much about it.
I mean, it's a lot, but it's a good read. But
So Ryan, you said the first comedian you ever saw was Chris Rock.
That's correct.
And that's one of the issues here. Like, I think everybody loves Chris Rock and everybody loves Will Smith. Everybody loved Will Smith. Some people are really upset at him right now. But I think everybody loves Chris Rock more because of what he had to put up with.
Well, it's just funny. He comes out with a show called "Everybody Hates Chris." I'm just.
Some people hate him because they think he told an offensive joke. I don't get that. I literally don't get it. It seemed like a compliment to me.
When you sit down and we can Monday morning quarterback and you review the film and we see everything in slow motion, you can have time to put everything in perspective. And you're right. I mean, G.I. Jane #1, Demi Moore was hot in that movie.
It was a movie about a beautiful bald woman.
A beautiful bald woman who
chooses to shave her head. Strong lead character.
Yeah, like I'm doing anything you can do, I can do better. It's a success story. So
I wouldn't be surprised if Hollywood reached out to Jada Pinkett Smith and said, "Hey, how about G.I. Jane 2?"
I don't know about that, because she's on Team Will. So I think they're a package deal. So
I don't think she'd turn down a lead role in G.I. Jane 2. I wouldn't.
I don't think she would get offered one. I'm sure she wouldn't turn it down. I'm just saying you don't want at any step of the way to reward the behavior that.
Well, she didn't do anything wrong.
But she's on the team. She's on that he did it because of her. I mean, if you see her face, she didn't like the joke.
Think of how many people would go see that movie if they cast Chris Rock in the movie and made Jada Pinkett Smith like, how old is Jada Pinkett Smith? Like 40?
I don't know.
Maybe,
she's got to be
a 40-year-old woman,
first
signs up for the military, shaves her head. Chris Rock could be, I don't know what he could be, like a really petty drill instructor. Who wouldn't go see that movie? Like, everybody would be talking about it.
Well, you'd have to put Will in there too. You'd have to get killed off in the opening credits or something like that. But yeah, I think
that's why she has to join the army, because her beloved husband is killed in some incident. She has to join to investigate it.
She
There
has
it
to
is.
They're
join.
working out this whole
No,
treatment.
she has to join because she has no protection now. She had to protect herself. So she goes to the
Right.
military to figure out how to
And
protect
Chris
her
Rock's
family.
not going to protect her.
Oh, of course not. Clearly
No.
not.
So one of the writers on my show is also a woman with a shaved head. And she says in the comments here that she would be so complimented if Chris Rock compared her to G.I. Jane. And that's the thing about women who shave their head. It is an underrated hairstyle choice because the women I know who have shaved heads, they get complimented constantly. People see them and are like, oh my God, I love your hair. That's so beautiful. Because what's more beautiful than like the shape of a woman's head where you can actually see it?
You know what's interesting? Being a man with a bald head wasn't cool until Michael Jordan did it. I thought when he was losing his hair and he shaved it, I was like, oh no. Yeah, I'm from Chicago originally, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Jordan went bald. And then all of a sudden he made it cool.
Remember Curly from the Harlem Globetrotters? He was the first one I remember who was like a very famous bald celebrity. And around that same time was Kojak. It was kind of weird. But then Jean-Luc Picard made it really popular on Star Trek. And Michael Jordan came around the same time. And after that point, then you had Bruce Willis boldly going hairless, Jason Statham. And after that, it was like, fine. But before that, you're right. It was stigmatic for men.
I'll put it full circle. Keanu Ivory Wayans was bald, and in I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, Jada Pinkett Smith was in that movie. I think she was in that movie. But if
Which
you just,
movie?
I'm Gonna Get You Sucker.
I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. Oh
Yeah.
wow, well she might have been in that.
It wasn't that. It was another movie he did that she was in with him. That they were like love partners. It'll come back to me, but
it wasn't the Eddie Murphy movie, was it?
No, it was Low Down Dirty Shame, maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember.
One of those.
That goes way too. It's 30 years ago.
But
Isaac Hayes, another great bald.
Yes. But Keanu Ivory Wayans was one that I was person. Like, okay, that looks cool.
Singer. You didn't see a lot of bald singers back in the day.
Yeah.
So Pierce, again, I would love to bring you on, but I can't until your devices are connected. So what's our final thoughts on this? We've written a great movie for Jada Pinkett Smith and Chris Rock to star in, which everyone will go see. So Hollywood, pay attention, make that offer.
I've always said life is better with laughter.
Sure.
Let's just lead with love, and we can all resolve differences if we sit down and have a conversation. And that's funny because they have a red table talk that they sit down and have conversations about.
Yeah.
And I just think in the idea of cancel culture, I don't really know what that means. I feel like if a lot of people like Dave Chappelle can't be canceled. You know, he can say whatever he wants. He's in that space where he's not able to be canceled. I don't think Will Smith can be canceled. I think he's been successful. He made a mistake. I think he's going to keep doing his thing. I think we have to give people second chances. We all can say that he made a mistake and it's not okay to put your hands on anyone. I don't think anyone is saying that's okay. Those are my final thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. And it is troubling to see a lot of people saying that it was okay and that it was justified and that they even were turned on by it. Like, ooh, he's sticking up for his woman. That's hot. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Because if you're a woman, don't encourage men to do that. Like that. Like we don't need to encourage men to be violent. They're violent enough. But yeah, so I agree. We can all sit down. We can talk about it. We can make jokes about it. Or we could punch each other and see how far that gets us. No, we don't want to punch each other.
How's that working out for Russia and Ukraine, Joe?
Yeah, no, it's so analogous, the situation. It's like talk things out, people, let's talk.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thanks you two for joining me. Thanks to everybody who commented. And
thanks for having us.
Absolutely. We'll see you in the computer and have a great night. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah.
Check us out on the How to Write Funny Facebook group where we provide feedback on jokes, and Ryan's there a fair amount. And Bree, nice to meet you. Good to have you on. And have a good night, you guys.
Are we going to see this clip somewhere?
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube.
Perfect. All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. Good to meet. Good to meet. Get a fun. All right. Good talking.
Yeah, I think it's on Facebook too. All right. Take care, guys. Good night.